This is Trinesha Cottrell. So let me start off by quoting the scripture. So that's usually where we land somewhere in this video. So the Bible says, write it down and make it plain. That's why I called this Take Some Notes. Because sometimes when we are going through life, when we're doing different things, we have an idea of what we want our life to look like. We'll say, oh, I'm going to do this, this, and this. I want to go this place. But we don't write anything down. We don't make any plans. We don't actually get to see it, what it is that we're trying to get to come into fruition. We don't really see what we want our actions to look like, what we want our like in the future. And so we'll sit there and we'll say, oh, we want to do this, this, and this. And the whole time we haven't budgeted for it. We haven't wrote down a list of the things that we want to do. We haven't wrote down what kind of steps we're going to take to get to that goal and in the end. And so we're sitting there saying, I don't know why I can't move in this direction. What steps have you taken to move in that direction? Because if you're not doing anything, how do you think you're going to get there? Even when you're working with God, and I mean, especially when you're working with God, He's expecting you to take a step towards the right path so that He can move two steps ahead of you, clearing the path for you. He can't do that if you're not doing something. And so if you're not writing things down and if you're not making it plain enough for you to see, okay, this is the next step that I need to do. Even with this challenge, with the 30-day challenge, I had a list of goals that I wanted to reach, things that I wanted to do, different topics, ways that I wanted to fine tune my skills, ways that I wanted to learn different things. And as I'm going through this challenge, I'm learning so much about myself. I'm like, oh, I do this. I don't do this. I need to learn how to do this. I've been playing around with thumbnails. I've been doing different things in my life. And even earlier today, I'm listening to finances. And now that I'm in a position where I make less, I am trying to budget better because, and I'm just going to be real transparent with you right here because I feel like I'm not the only person that's been in this situation. But when I was making more money, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this, this, and this. I had a strategic budget of the things that I could do. And I had apps and different things like that. And of course, sometimes when you have apps, you don't realize how much you're spending on apps because, $6.99 here, $20 there, all adds up at the end of the month. So you have to be really careful with where you're spending your money. And so as I was going through my budget, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I really I have been doing no spend weeks. I have literally been doing everything that I possibly can to make sure that I am budgeting, that I'm within my means, that I'm doing, well, not everything that I can because I could get rid of some apps. And one thing that I heard AO say in one of his previous shows is that he does something with his cards like once a quarter or every year. He does this thing where he cancels and he creates a new card. That might be something I have to start doing now that I'm in a different position in my life, because until God propels me forward, until He moves me to a higher position, I'm going to have to be a good steward and a good manager of the finances that I have right now, so God can see that He can bless me with more. He's not going to give me more if I'm sitting there like, oh yeah, it's just going to happen the way it's supposed to happen. Like, yes, my trust should be in God, but I think some of us, when we get religious, when we're Christian, whatever else, we have this mindset that, okay, I'm Christian. God, just give me whatever I want. And that's not the way it works. It's with discipline and obedience that God blesses you, because He sees that you're a good steward of a few things so He can give you more things. He's not just going to give you more and more and pile up on your plate if you don't know how to manage the money that you already have, if you don't know how to budget the finances that you already have. If God is not going to give you a person if you don't know how to budget your emotions as a single. You have to be emotionally intelligent already. You have to be already working on yourself for God to give you His child. He's not just going to give you something that's so precious to Him. We are more important than the sparrows. So why would He allow you to have access to something that is so dear to His heart? In the Bible, I always would hear this thing about, this is a man after God's own heart. But I get it. Because when you're truly living like Christ, when you are truly trying to be Christ-like, when you're truly seeking God's approval, not man's approval, but God's approval, when you're really trying to do the right things in your life, you are really a person after God's own heart. You are really being intentional with your life. You're really being disciplined with your life. You're really making sure that you're doing the things that you need to do. so that you can be a good steward over a few things. And I wrote some notes down in my phone because, sometimes I lose traction and everything else. And I know I hear sometimes people will say, don't take notes because it makes you seem like you don't know what you're talking about. But also, I want to make sure that I'm correct in stating anything that it is I'm stating. I don't want to just throw information out there that's not legit. And I may say some things incorrectly, not intentionally, but that's just something that happens. And so this kind of helps me stay on track. I don't have like a bullet points or anything like that, but I have like quick notes that I put. And another thing that I put on my list, the first thing I put was write it down and make it plain. Because when you see it, like earlier today, I wrote down a thermostat. A thermostat? Yeah, a thermostat, a thermometer, whatever else, right? I drew it. And so as I drew this thermometer, I was like, okay, I'm going to get a goal thing. I'm going to write down where I am financially and what is my goal. And I got that from this couple who does a podcast called For Better or Worth. And I downloaded it on my phone because I was like, okay, I'm trying to get better at my finances. I want to learn something that, it might be different perspectives. It might be different things that I'll hear that will click, that will allow me to feel like, okay, this is keeping me on the right path. This is what I need to be doing. And yes, I'm familiar with Dave Ramsey and all those other things. And I'm definitely like down with the baby steps and everything else. I also know that when you're going through baby step 1, baby step 2, whatever baby step you're on, sometimes there are certain people that are on the journey with you that help you as you're going through your journey. And so while I'm trying to budget better with the money that God has provided me with, I'm learning different things that may help me see a visual so I can write it down and make it plain. So when I look at that thermometer, I can see, okay, my goal is $100 for this. My goal is for this month, or $300 for this month, or $1,000 for this month. Every time I am able to save that amount of money, I will color in the thermometer, and I'm going to color it like different colors and make it all cute and put some stickers. Like, I'm going to do a whole thing. And so I'm going to be like hyped about this because I got to get excited, because if not, I'm just going to fall victim to the world. I'm just going to be worldly. I'm just going to do what everybody else is doing and be like, well, people just have debt. That's just how it is. I'm so weird in my family because, and I don't know if I should say family or just people in general that I know of, because most of them are like, okay, well, getting a car loan is normal, borrowing money is normal, doing all these things and having that is normal. But for me, it feels suffocating. Like, I'm the type of person that likes to feel free. And God allows me to feel free because I know that as long as I'm in his arms, as long as he is covering me, as long as he has a hedge of protection around me, there's no weapon seen or unseen that could come against me. So I feel safe in his arms. I don't feel like I'm chained to anything. I know like everything that you're doing with God is because you're a willing participant. God is not a forceful God. He's the type of God that wants you to come to him. So when I'm with God, I feel safe. I feel secure. I feel seen. I feel worthy because God selected me, because God chose me to do whatever it is that I need to do to serve and help other people. And so that's exactly what I intend to do. And so while I am doing this financial thing and I'm getting everything straight, I'm like, okay, I don't want to do loans. I don't want to do, like, when I go on trips, when I go different places, whatever else, I pay cash. I don't believe in using a credit card. I know people think it's so weird. And I have my tribe, and when I'm looking at like Dave Ramsey or people who were affiliated or whatever else, it really helps me feel like, okay, I'm not going through this alone. I don't have to just be the only person. Like I feel so weird because the things that matter to me, the things that are important to me, aren't important to a lot of the people that are around me. And I know people watching this are like, okay, you need to find a new tribe. Listen, I got a tribe. And that's just because I'm not in proximity. They're not like in the area, or some of them are in the area, but they don't know me like that, you know? But so while I'm doing this, it helps me stay focused when I'm listening to those podcasts, when I'm listening to people talk about money, when I'm listening to people who believe the same thing as me, like religiously or financially, because it's like, okay, I can stay focused. I know I don't want to get I don't want to have any loans. I know that I want to wait on God, on, my kingdom spouse. I know that, like, things like this, and then people see me that are around me that are used to like being in the world, and they'll be like, why don't you just date this guy? They'll like try to set me up with people, and it's not. I have to explain to people that the problem isn't meeting people. When I go places, I meet someone every time I go somewhere. And it's not, I'm not saying that to be arrogant or egotistical or any of those things. I'm saying it because just to paint the story, paint the picture of what's going on in my life. Not, it's no arrogance behind it or anything like that. And the problem isn't meeting people. The problem is that I don't want to settle for less than God's best for me. The problem is that most people and I are not a good fit. The problem is that, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, I have flaws. I have things about me that I'm pretty sure I could do better, that I could grow, I can learn more about what it is that I need to do. And I'm just not going to settle for just anybody. I'm settling for the somebody that God has grace for me. And when I think about the different things that I want in my life, after I did this thermometer earlier, writing down my financial goals for every month, and I'm budgeting, I go through the whole list of the things that I bought this month and things that I know that were scheduled, that are automatic payments, and things that were coming up. I was like, okay, now that I have my budget straight, now that I know how much, my paycheck is going to be and everything else, and I don't count like what comes in from my business because it depends on what I'm doing. If I can get a deal, or if I receive a brand deal, or if I am at a vendor show or something like that, that adds into the finances every month. Then of course I'm doing 10% plus to church, or a charity or whatever else. And most of the time I don't do charity. What I do is, like, if this is gonna sound so weird, I'm just one of those random people, but when I'm like in a grocery store or out and about, or I'm going like to the mall or to take a class or something, and I see a person, or I'm in line or whatever else, I could feel it in my heart or in my soul or I could feel my spirit, and it'll just be like, help this person, pay for the person behind you, give this person this, and give this person such and such amount, or whatever it is. And I'm obedient because I know it's God, because the adversary would never tell you to give anything, because that's from, especially when you're giving from a servant's heart, from a joyful heart, that's allowing God to give you more opportunities. And I'm not doing it for opportunities. I'm doing it because honestly, it makes me feel amazing. Like, it makes me feel like I'm doing something right in my life. I know people are probably like, what? No, but seriously, sometimes I'm like, am I doing everything that I need to be doing, God? And so, like, when I do stuff like that, it's like, okay, I feel I feel good, like this is the right thing. I feel it in my heart of hearts. I feel it in my spirit. I feel like I'm doing it with the best of intentions. I'm not doing it because I'm expecting them to give me something. I'm not doing it because I'm holding it against the person and saying, "Oh, you owe me this." If I give somebody something, if God put on my heart to give someone something, I'm not ever bringing it up again. If I needed it that bad, God will make sure I got it. I'm not that type of person. And I don't give anyways. I only give if God put it on my heart for me to give to somebody. That's the only time. And it's not that I'm trying to do it in a selfish way or anything like that. It's just that I want to be obedient, and I don't want to hinder someone else from growing when God might be trying to teach that person a lesson. Like, if I help them, God might not be able to reach them. And if I'm honest, when I was at my lowest point, if any of my family members, friends would have helped me in that moment, if they would have just covered me in the way that God, like, they couldn't cover me the way God covered me anyways, but if they would have reached out and they would have helped me, and I didn't reach rock bottom, me and God would not be like this, because I would have felt comfortable. I wouldn't have felt like I needed something more. I wouldn't have known how badly I needed God. And I'm so grateful and thankful that God allowed me to go through that alone, that He allowed me to really reach that point in my life where the only person I could call on was God. And it wasn't like I called on him because he was the only one that was available. I called on him because I remembered that I could always reach him. I grew up in church and I just, got in the ways of the world and everything. And I kind of had in my head that I was going to do what I want to do in life. And then when I reached that point in my life after trying everything that I possibly could and nothing come into fruition, nothing good coming out of it. Like I would of course get a job or something like that, and God would bless me in certain areas of my life and wake me up, in the morning. But when it came to truly having that peace in my life, I didn't have it. I kept looking for it everywhere. I kept thinking I could find it in a person, place, or thing, and none of those things fulfilled me. None of those things gave me anything that God could give me in my life. And when I was exhausted, I exhausted all other options. Like nothing was good enough. Nothing could be God, and nothing would ever be God. But I had to really reach that point to realize how much I needed God, how much God really could do in my life, how much he could change my mindset. I went from I'm going to try so hard not to cry. Oh my gosh. Okay, get it together, girl. Oh my gosh. But I literally went from being sad every single day, crying every single I mean, I'm crying in these videos because I know how good God is, but this is like happy tears. But I literally would just be so sad every day. I felt so miserable. I felt empty. I don't know how else to describe it but emptiness. I felt like nothing. And I know a lot of women won't admit that. They want to say they got it all together. I was just the baddest, biggest thing ever that ever walked the face of the earth. No, God is the biggest, baddest thing that ever was anywhere near the whole universe, inside, outside, whatever else. I'm just a vessel that wants to be used by God. That's it. And so when I just when I had exhausted all options, I was like, okay, God, I need you. I mean, I called out to God like my life depended on it. My hair, my hair does its own thing. It's not going to be a distraction today. But I had no other options. I exhausted all options. Nothing else. Nothing did it. Nothing made me feel amazing. Everything made me feel worse. Like the food that I was eating that I thought was going to fulfill me wasn't fulfilling me. The people in my life, they were all going to leave eventually or whatever else. And that's just a part of life. People change, people grow, people are there for a season because God placed them there to help you during that season in your life. And I don't think that people just leave just because. Some people are there for the rest of your life, but also you can't take it personal. But for me, it was triggering. And so I really just try to find anything I could to fill a God-sized hole, and nothing was good enough. And after I was like, okay, none of these things are helping me. None of these things, like, yes, I have laughter or have happy moments, but I don't have joy. Yes, I can go somewhere and have a good time or something like that, but it's so temporary. Everything I was doing was temporary fulfillment. Nothing filled me up. Nothing but God. And when I called out to him, he came to me and he told me to get up. And ever since then, I have not laid back down in that same position. Things in life hit me, I have moments where things don't go my way. That's just life. But I don't ever feel that type of sadness anymore. I've had a moment on these videos where I felt like the weight, like spiritual warfare, but that was totally different. It wasn't like I personally was whatever. It was just that God was molding me. It was that I was being tested. It was that the adversary was trying to trip me up on this road, but it wasn't because I was seeking anything else. It was just part of life. But with God, I just feel like I have everything that I need. Like in this single season, I feel like I don't have to look for a guy to be God. I don't have to look for a guy to come in and just be the love that I need. I don't have to look for a guy to come in and help me in ways that only God can help me. I don't have to wait on a guy to go travel, to go do things that are fun. I can do all of those things on my own, and I can do all of those things with God. But will it be amazing when God sends the man in my life who I will be able to do those things with? The kingdom spouse. Let me correct that. The kingdom spouse that God sends into my life. Absolutely. I look forward to the day that God allows me to be able to have that type of man in my life. The type of man who is not somebody that I chose, but somebody that God knew I was going to need to be a part of my life, to be a part of the purpose that he put on my life. Somebody who we can both grow and learn together. I'm not expecting the person to ever be perfect because he can't ever be God. But I do know that God knows what it is that I need, like inside and out. And I pray for stuff like people will like try to sleep on God. like like God, I just need help with my finances. God, if you got me here, it's to teach me a lesson. So I'm gonna learn in this season. And then when you're ready to propel me, when you're ready to move me forward, I'm ready to go there too. Like take me wherever it is you need to take me because I want to remain humble the whole time. I'm not trying to get beside myself. I want to be exactly what it is that you created me to be. Nothing more, nothing less, because you're the God of abundance. And if you think it's enough, I know it's way more than enough. So as I go through this journey, as I'm learning things in my life, I know that when it comes to learning, when it comes to growing, when it comes to everything, writing it down, making it plain, creating small habits is the thing that has allowed me to be able to grow the most. When you write it down and make it plain, that's when God can really do something with it. I wrote one more note too. I know I'm going to forget what it is, and it might not even go with this. Oh, yeah. I always say this. It's like when I look at what to do in a waiting season while I have patience, the scripture that always comes up is do not grow weary and doing good. And like I said it yesterday in yesterday's video too, but let me go ahead and read it again. Be not weary in well doing, for in due season you will reap a harvest if you faint not. You can't get distracted by life and what it is that you thought you wanted in life. You can't get distracted by anything else that you thought was going to take the place of God. And you can't get distracted by not seeing the fruit right away. The best thing that you can do in this season is write down what you want. I wrote down that in the past I would write down things that I want, and it would be, God, I want a house like this with a car like this with, and I would just write these materialistic objects of things that I wanted in my life. And today, after I had some time to be a little more humble, this was the first time that I've ever wrote a goal list that I had God at the top of my list. The very first time. And that's just me being transparent because I feel like some people try to make it seem like they always choose the right decision. Like when you're Christian, you don't never make a mistake. You never grow weary. You never question anything. Like, listen, I'm a Christian and also I'm not perfect. I question stuff sometimes. Sometimes I get impatient in the waiting season. Sometimes I get angry at God, everything. And God can handle it. He wants me to come to him. He wants you to come to him when you're going through anything so he can help you. He can't help you if you're not willing to lay it down at his feet, So you got to make sure that you humble yourself and that you are really intentional with your relationship with God. So today I wrote down on my list faith. Faith is at the top of my list. Being mindful of what it is that I'm doing in my life, making sure that I write it down and make it plain and take it to God. That's a skip. That's a step that I think we always skip. We have this goal list, we have this vision board, we have these things that we want to do in our life because we think we know better than God. No, let me stop. But I really did feel like that before I really knew God, before I rededicated my life to God. I really felt like, oh, if I do this, this, and this, I'm going to do this. But God has a bigger plan. God's plans are not our plans. His ways are not our ways. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door will be open. When you focus on God, when you give it to him and he certifies it, I don't know about you, but God told me some promises for my life. And when I would make a decision to be with someone in the past, and I would be like, okay, God, I want to be with this guy. And I would just be in a relationship with this guy that was not God at all. And we would get in certain situations, I would feel insecure. We would get in certain situations and I would just feel like, oh my gosh, I would second guess everything. When God gives a head nod, when he's like, yes, this is the person, when he allows you to be with someone that he actually has for you, or in a job, a position that he actually set aside for you, there's nothing no man walking the face of this earth could ever do to take you away from something that God appointed for you, something that God graced for you. There's not a woman bad enough in this world that's going to take my kingdom spouse away from me. They might have they might be able to check a whole bunch of boxes, but if God is saying that this is my kingdom spouse, I don't have nothing to worry about. If God is saying that I'm this man's kingdom spouse, he doesn't have anything to worry about. There's not a man that's buff enough, that's whatever other women, I don't know why I keep saying other women, like the 6 foot thing or whatever other women want is is like, it's not a man walking the face of this earth that could ever take me away from the man that God has grace for me. All right, end the video. No, but seriously, like, you have to know who and whose you are. You have to know that everything that God has for you is for you. And write down what it is that you see for your life and then take it to God. Because once you get his stamp of approval, there's nothing anyone can do to take that away from you. God is going to make sure you get whatever it is he promised you, because God is the type of God that he cannot lie. He will not lie, and he keeps all of his promises. So stay focused on him. And in the comments, I know I always do this, but seriously, in the comments, make it plain, because today is the day that you write it down and make it plain so that you can reap a harvest if you faint not. Today is the day that you realize that with God, you can do anything. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You don't have to ever feel like you need to grow weary in doing well, because God got you. So I really appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. I mean, it really means a lot that God is able to use me as a vessel to help other people. Like, serving other people and helping other people really does fill me up. It helps me. It makes me feel like my heart feels so good. And so anything that I can do to like help other people with God's blessing, I'm willing to do. So I really appreciate you allowing me to be able to be on your screen, in your car, on your whatever it is that you're listening to be able to, or watching on your TV or on your computer or on your phone, whatever it is, whatever device it is that you're using. Thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And I will see you tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much.